News Weekly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 142 in year 3. I am on location again. I'm still at my brother's house. I'm actually in a room I've recorded in before, but I have my setup because unfortunately I had to be over here for a few more days because they're out of town. And yeah, I'm tired of lugging this setup around. I'm gonna say that. It fucking sucks. Because it's a big old PC, 2 monitors, all this shit. I'm just like, so yeah, we are recording Batman News Weekly on time this week, but there ain't shit to talk about.
I know, the one freaking week that we're
Yeah.
like, everything is good. We have everything planned out. And there ain't shit. No comics, like barely any news. Like I wouldn't even call the news that we're going to talk about was speculation, even when it was kind of first introduced. This is reintroducing an idea.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. But it's just I hate 5-week months because of this.
Yeah. And you guys let us down on comments this week? Like, come on, guys.
I had to post twice for you
Yeah.
guys.
Come on. We got a few trickling in at the moment. But yeah, I was just like, I'm actually going to type it in right now. Currently recording. Get in questions. But yeah, anyway, so there's that. But today we have 2 topics we're going to talk about. And I think we can actually talk about the Black Label one in length. But I want to talk about, I just informed this to Clay right now, and I want to get his opinion on it. We were slightly talking about it. But I read an article talking about I don't know if it's still popular, but it beat out Joe Rogan for 1 week as the top spot. The Batman Unburied podcast that's been going around. And we know that this is the actor from Black Panther, correct?
Yes.
That is playing Bruce Wayne. He is not, he's a mortician, if I'm not mistaken, in this, or he works in a morgue.
Yeah.
But still has his parents' money, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And this article that came out, I think it was David Goyer. Didn't he write BVS or something like that? Or isn't he tied to Zack Snyder?
Yes.
So apparently he's the one writing
did, this. He didn't do BVS. He did Man of Steel.
Okay. So he's apparently tied to this project. I'm not too sure if he's writing everything or what the case is, but he came out in this article and said that Batman Unburied's Bruce Wayne was always intended to be black. And I was just like, okay. And like I saw a comment, somebody saying like, I'm glad. And again, this is representation, so this is totally going out to everybody. But somebody said, oh yeah, I like the idea of hearing a Batman, I think the way they framed it, not necessarily Bruce Wayne, with like a Jamaican, I don't know what the exact words they use, like a Jamaican, I don't want to say twang because we use that more in the South,
Yeah.
But like a Jamaican spice to it. Like they said they like that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I think if I heard like a Latino and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. He's got the Latino kind of accent. Like that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But we've had the discussion on the podcast before about Bruce Wayne. Well, one, my pet peeve is fucking when you fuck with the multiverse and you change it to be anybody and everybody.
Like, yes, I was just explaining this to my uncle. Of course, I now live closer to a lot more family, and he's a big nerd. His big thing is the X-Men. But through the MCU, he's started to broaden his kind of experience with all of that. But he loves DC also.
Yeah,
and he's talking about the multiverse because of watching Multiverse of Madness and everything else. And I explained to him because he's like, "How does the multiverse theory work? Like, what is it about?" And I told him the 2 different ways that we've actually seen it on screen before. Mm-hmm. Ironically, you've seen it both ways on freaking or in the MCU, but even on the DC CW stuff, we've had the conversation that it really confuses people, or I think it is really weird when you have an individual, and in the multiverse, the same person, supposedly because of multiverse, is a completely different looking individual.
Yeah, I hate that. It's a stupid idea.
It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense. The idea that there can be a million different Flashes that are not Barry Allen, that's totally fine. that is okay. There's just like, a different person fell into the chemicals, got struck by lightning. There can be a million bajillion different Batmen, but they're not Bruce Wayne. And the idea of changing like Bruce Wayne's ethnicity or anything like that, or his race, and that doesn't make sense to me, because then I mean, the only way it works, but it still doesn't make sense to me, is you'd have to change the whole Wayne race all the way through the lineage to be that. But it still doesn't make sense to me because it doesn't fit into the multiverse genre. Because
He,
if you were to take my parents, my mom, my dad, but you replace either one of them, I'm not the person I am anymore. It's totally different DNA.
exactly, and the way, like you said, you would have to go all the way down lineage and create a completely new origin. So there is rich people all around the world.
Yeah.
So you can have a rich Wayne family
Yeah.
in Spain or
Yes.
in China
Hmm.
or
Africa.
in Africa, India,
Yeah.
South America, freaking South Africa,
Hmm.
anywhere. You can have rich families anywhere. But in the idea of placing the Wayne family, we had said this before in, I think, the very first rumors of a
Hmm.
Black Batman coming to either comics or live action.
Yeah.
I think you had said, was it Fat Man on Batman, one of the hosts?
Yes, yes. The what is his name? Mark something. I think I forget his name,
Yeah,
but the and I've always had this idea. So I've always said, because what is the argument that always comes up, right? Like there's always this stupid argument online of people like, you can't have a black Batman because, or you can't have a white Black Panther because Black Panther is rooted in African roots.
yeah,
Like you cannot have a white man. But I'm like, well, what if white people exist in Africa? Like we worked with one. I don't know if you ever talked to Stuart when we used to work with him a lot, but
yeah,
he was born in Africa, or like he grew up there.
yeah.
And like, he was like, yeah, I grew up in Africa. I did all this stuff, like blah, blah, blah. He was talking about how he used to find like old school like fossils and shit. He always told me this one story of him finding this like very, very ancient pot or something like that in the sands of wherever he did. And they took it from him because it was like super ancient. And like, I don't know where the hell it came from. So he grew up
Interesting.
there and he was just a kid and shit. He also told me about like UFOs and shit that he saw. So, I take it with a grain of salt. But he did grow up
Stewart was
in,
wild.
yeah, yeah, Stuart was crazy. But he was awesome. But he talked about how he grew up in Africa. So like white people, I mean, Elon Musk is from Africa, isn't he? Isn't his parents some like blood diamond people or some shit
Oh,
like
I
that?
don't know about that.
I don't know. I think there's all this stuff about him too, about Elon Musk as well. So like the idea that there aren't white people in Africa doesn't make any sense to me. But I understand where people are coming from when they say like, no, Black Panther should always be black.
Yes.
But when you try to say the same thing for the Wayne family, because I've said this, I was all Bruce Wayne should be white, and I'm somebody that loves representation. I'm down, like I'm totally cool with it, and I'm always like, but somebody like Bruce Wayne should remain white. And the black co-host of Fat Man on Batman
His name
agrees.
is Mark Bernardin.
Yes, Bernardin.
Yeah.
He says the same thing. And so this isn't just a Latino saying Bruce Wayne should be white. It's a person of the black community also saying the same thing. And we share the same ideal in the reason why Bruce Wayne should be white, or the Wayne family should be white, is because they come from old white money. And they're
Yes.
based in America. And in America, the most powerful people are white. The Rockefellers, we know everybody from the old school that were colonized here, that had slaves, that did all of that crap. They're the ones that have the most money. Now, has that probably changed in the future? Maybe, but you're talking about people that have like, I don't know how it works, but I think if you invented something, you constantly get royalties from that, right? For the rest of your life or some bullshit. I don't know how all that legality works, but there are just people that you have never heard of, but they have this Rockefeller name or they have this kind of name that are just filthy rich.
Yeah.
And so that is Bruce Wayne. The Wayne family are like settlers of America. And so that's how they get their wealth. That's why they have so much money. Because if you don't if you've never been curious of that, like if you're reading and you're like, yeah, why do they have so much money? It's not because freaking Bruce's dad made great investments. He was a fucking doctor. Like
Yeah.
doctors make money, but they're not like super crazy rich. Also, his mother is an Arkham, who's also one of the like founding fathers or founding families of Gotham.
Yeah.
So like she's also rich. So they're like mega rich. And so that's why we always put out this idea that Bruce Wayne should be white because he comes from old white money. Same way that T'Challa from Black Panther should be African because everything is rooted in African roots there. You can't just
Yes.
change that. And I feel like people are going to argue, oh, anybody could be rich. If I'm not mistaken, because I think I looked this up and we even talked about it on the podcast, I don't think the first African millionaire happened until like the 60s or 80s in America.
Yeah.
You know?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why, like, any my parents were born in the 60s, or my dad was. No, they both were. And so, like, that's in my lifetime. You know what I mean? That's not building, that's one generation.
Yeah.
One generation right there. The Waynes are generations of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, going back to this full circle thing, they, the podcast is saying that this is a black Batman, which is totally fine. I totally get it. But he is named Bruce Wayne. My thing was, is they said it was always meant to be this, and I'm just like, this could have been the first time that you could have just had a person of color playing Bruce Wayne. Like, why did we need to change it? Is what I'm kind of curious about. Not
Yeah.
saying that you have to do that. It just gets into the pet peeve area of me. I'm like, this is the multiverse. Like, that doesn't, like, it's audio, so it didn't need to matter. Because if I'm not mistaken, they didn't make Jeffrey Wright's character, they didn't come out and say, like, he's Black Bruce Wayne. He's just Batman. He's
Yeah.
just Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why did it matter? I don't know. I think this is just one of those pet peeve things. I think some people might be not on board with us. They're like, why does it fucking matter? Because that's always kind of the thing. Like, it's fake. Why does it fucking matter? It's just, as people that like certain things, like, we like to change it. Like, I mean, there's certain things we don't like to change. And
again, kind of the same argument. Who cares? Why does it
mhm,
matter? You're not going to see any kind of development from this, whatever.
yeah.
But like, the thing is, the really cool thing about the multiverse
Hmm.
is if DC ever wanted to do a Into the Batverse,
Yeah.
and you find out that you see a Bruce Wayne that is having a conversation, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I work at the morgue."
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh shit, that's the Batman from the podcast."
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. But then let's say they do this via comic book, so that way they can kind of stretch out story.
Yeah.
You have a conversation from one Bruce to another. Hey, where did your family's money come from?
Yeah.
And I would be interested
Yeah.
to hear that kind of conversation. Not
Hmm.
specifically for the fact that, hey, I want to see if these guys can be proven wrong with the fact that he's black and he's not going to have that Wayne money,
Yeah.
like nothing like that. But
Yeah.
like, I think you can have these moments in the future
Hmm.
and have a really cool experience with it.
Yeah.
And even
I mean, because
so,
there are rich people of color nowadays. Like, we've made this
yes,
argument.
yes,
I mentioned it that I just read an article that LeBron James is a billionaire now.
exactly.
So like, it's not that that's not possible. We're just trying to talk about this idea because I just think it's stupid that you can go around and say, like, no, Bruce Wayne can be any color, but you can't do that with Black Panther. That makes no sense to me. Like, the logic makes no sense because what if the character grew up in Africa? He's rooted in Africa. He could have grown up with tribes. You could have done all. You can
Well,
change anything you want.
so one thing from because I'm actually reading because I don't know if you actually did this, but
Hmm.
when Chadwick Boseman unfortunately passed away,
Hmm.
Comixology and
Oh, you
Marvel,
downloaded all the Black Panther comics?
I
Yeah,
downloaded
I
over
didn't read them.
400 comics.
Yeah.
I am currently reading them.
Okay.
I decided, hey, I'm going to read all the Black Panther comics that I downloaded. There is a character that is technically, I believe, either the half brother or the step brother of Black Panther.
Mhm.
and he is, I believe, mixed.
Okay.
And so, but he is known as the White Wolf. And uh, I don't know if there is any significant racial reason why that is,
Mhm.
because he isn't dark skinned like everybody else in that book. Uh, but there you have it right there. You have somebody who is lighter skinned
Yeah.
in the roots of Africa right there. And
Yeah.
he plays a major role in several stories with Black Panther.
Yeah.
So you can have other people in
But I just
Africa.
don't think society would allow it. You know what I mean? It would be an uproar. If Marvel were to announce today that Black Panther is going to get a new character and they are going to be white, people are going to lose their shit.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you do vice versa, you're going to have the same backlash, but a lot of people are going to be like, those people are just racist. You know what I mean? Like the conversation changes. Like you just don't want to see a black man as Bruce Wayne. And I'm like, no, it's not that. Like, we have a black Batman already, and nobody gives a shit about him.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I think that's what annoys me is like the logic behind it. Because here's the thing: if you want to throw in another instance of where people would get super upset, if we just started saying like, I don't know who's a better example of this, but like Batwoman, if we're just like, she fucks dudes now, that's all she does. She's not a lesbian anymore. She just fucks dudes. You don't think people are gonna, definitely during Pride Month too? You don't think people
I
are
was
gonna
gonna
start
say
saying
this is
shit?
the worst month you could have
Well,
possibly
no,
made that
and
analogy.
exactly. If you start doing that, though, you don't think people are gonna have an uproar about it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But we change people's sexuality all the time that are straight, and
Yeah.
it is viewed as like this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is great. But you can't go in reverse, and that's kind of dumb. And so like I don't like this idea of like it should be able to go both ways. If this is a creative space, you know what I mean? But it seems like no, once it goes this way, it has to stay that way. But Black Panther's always been black, Bruce Wayne's always been
You know, I
white.
never thought about that. Can a Batwoman of the multiverse not be a lesbian?
I don't see why not. But well, so here's the thing though. In the idea of the multiverse, as long as it's always Kate Kane can be a different variety of things. Like she would still be pale as fuck, but she would be you could have a straight Kate Kane, you could have a gay Kate Kane, you could have a trans gay Kane, you could do all that kind of stuff. You could do all of that in the
Yeah.
multiverse because the idea of the multiverse theory is that there are a million bajillion different versions of you, right? There
Yes.
is versions of us that died the moment we were born. We died on the operating table. There are versions of us that live to be 100. There are versions of us that die in elementary school. There are versions of everything. Like
Yeah.
there any possibility you can think of that is supposed to be you. But it's you, not not your friend that's now named you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
Clay being named Juice. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Um which is why the CW pissed me off so much when fucking Stephen Amell was Barry Allen. I'm like, no, well, you could have just made him the Flash, but as fucking Stephen Amell, like you know, or
Yeah.
whatever his Oliver.
Yeah.
You could have just had Oliver be the Flash, and you know, fucking Barry Allen is Green Arrow. Like they just that's different. Which is again, it's not that fucking hard to do. I don't know why they just didn't do that. But anyways, it's because of budget cuts, right? Like they have to do shit like that, and they're like, oh yeah, we have to save content or whatever. But again, still, they didn't need to do that. They were using the same actors, so it's just
No,
dumb.
but it was dumb for the reason being that Tom Cavanaugh
Yeah.
played the same actor or the
Hmm.
same character in different versions of himself
Yeah.
throughout the entire multiverse. So they did it both ways
Yeah.
on the
It was
same
dumb.
show.
Yeah. I mean, the Flash is trash now, so you can
That's
see
true.
where it was going. But that's the biggest thing. Do I care that the Unburied podcast is a Black Batman? No.
No,
I just think it was kind of like it's one of those things that's unnecessary, right? And we've talked about that on this podcast. That throwing something in there for the sake of just throwing it in there is not necessary.
it loses the value.
Yeah, and it comes off as pandering, and that has been one of my biggest arguments. I hate when something comes off as pandering.
Well,
Like,
not only pandering for me, I think the very popular thing now, especially to get clicks and gain conversation
mhm,
points, is hey, what can I say real quick in this interview that's going to have people talk about this for the next week, for the
Yeah.
next 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And saying Bruce Wayne is black already had a lot of people having that conversation.
Yeah.
And then adding the fact, oh, well, Bruce Wayne has always been black in this podcast,
Yeah.
and having it worded in that way of like, oh, yeah, it was always intended to do that.
Yeah.
And we just had the conversation just with that, with being with Bruce Wayne,
Hmm.
it gets really confusing when thinking about the backstory, when
Yeah.
thinking, okay, well, how does that work? And again, it can happen. I would be more interested because we are people who are very big into continuity, into storytelling, and
Yeah.
everything else. If they have a second season and there's flashbacks or
Hmm.
something telling more about his backstory,
Yeah.
then I'm all for it. Let's do,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not listening to the podcast right now. So definitely something I want to get around to, but I've just been so busy with everything. But it does seem to be pretty popular. People are enjoying it. But I just thought that was just such a weird title. And, it's a discussion we've had before. And it makes it weirder for me when Jeffrey Wright, like, that was not brought up. And granted, I'm pretty sure that podcast was more enjoyable. And probably if I were to listen to the Batman and Buried compared to the Jeffrey Wright one, I would find that one more enjoyable because that was more of a comedy, and I kind of enjoyed like the silliness of it.
Yeah.
And the way they were building the universe there was really cool with all the different voices and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of weird. Um, to just throw that out there, like, oh yeah, it's just that he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. I mean, cool. It gets down to creative freedom. Like, you can do whatever you want when it comes to creative stuff. I just felt like it was unnecessary
Yeah.
information, but that's cool if people are enjoying it. Like I said, that one comment was like, oh, it's cool to hear like this kind of Jamaican spice to the voice of Batman. That's cool. But you could have easily not used the Bruce Wayne name and just made this a new character, and
Yeah.
he's Batman. We're doing it right now with Jace. Like, it's the same shit. So
That is also true. Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me because like if you're gonna build a universe, it's a bunch of different worlds. Like, you might as well do that. And he's also like he's in the morgue. Like, why is he working? Have they explained that in the show? I'm curious.
I haven't gotten the chance to listen to it yet.
Yeah. If you guys are listening to this, that are listening to this podcast, and you also listen to Unburied, let us know in
Give
the
us yeah,
comments.
give us some
Yeah.
information, give us some
Yeah.
backstory.
Also, let us know if you disagree with this take. I'm always down to hear your disagreements, as long as it's all
Yes,
civil.
that's
You know.
one thing that me and Juice definitely are not afraid of. We will ask the stupid questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people are scared to do that. They're scared to have these conversations. I don't want to get canceled. I've already been canceled. I don't give a shit anymore. I've been canceled before. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump on to the next topic, which is our main story. Probably should open with this, but I don't really care. We got 20 minutes out of that conversation when we have nothing on this podcast. There is, would you say these are rumors? I've seen it reported on a few different sites now.
As of right now, they are only rumors.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course they haven't really officially said anything. And as of right now, I don't even believe from the last report that we've seen, Phillips hasn't even completed a script for the
Yeah.
next Joker movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the big thing here is that there has been rumors that Zaslav is interested in approaching Todd Phillips to not only create more of these black label movies,
Mm-hmm.
but to be an advisor and possibly the head of a DC black label studio.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
It worries me. Because the reason why is I'm reading this article right here. By the way, this is reported from the Hollywood Reporter, so a credible source. But it says, however, one source explains that while Zaslav and Phillips have discovered a rapport, Phillips, despite having directed Joker, is not an expert on the larger DC universe. I don't want somebody that's not an expert on the DC universe to be overseeing the DC universe because we just fucking had that.
Yeah. No, and that's why I always say these jobs as like the head of whatever. I know Kevin Feige is a one man show as
Yeah.
far as like he's like almost like a Stanley. He is the person that has gotten the most credits and everything, and he's the man that runs the show. With everything else, though, it's going to be very rare that you can find a Kevin Feige for anything else.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige grew up on comics, and he loved that passion and followed it into the realm of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so he knows both freaking topics of he knows comics and he knows movies. So
Yeah.
that's why it works so well with him. It's like I said, it's going to be very rare that you're going to be able to find that with anybody else. So it needs to be a two-man job. It needs to be somebody who knows Hollywood and somebody who knows DC for
Yeah.
both the regular DCEU thing and then of course this DC Black Label thing. And Phillips, if I am not mistaken, had an idea of a movie and was afraid that it was going to be shot down. So he then made it into a Joker movie.
Hmm.
It was not originally a Joker idea. It was not originally a Joker story. It
Yeah.
was an originally just like a random dude in like New York, whatever. And then he's like, oh, you know what? It'll probably convince a lot more people if this is like a superhero thing.
Yeah.
So let me do it with a bad guy. Oh, Joker. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. I never heard that actually.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. Which we had a lot of discussions in Discord recently. A lot of people just saying that this is very. It's just what is it? Taxi Driver
Yeah.
with Joker in it. So it could make a lot of sense on why there's a lot of similarities there. Um, yeah, I'm not. I'm all for a Black Label universe. I have no problem with that. Although I am getting tired of the realism shit. So like, I
Well,
don't really care.
here's my pitch to Black Label though.
Hmm.
It doesn't need to be the realism that we think of when we think of the Batman
Yeah,
and Joker. Black Label can be the Elseworlds label for Hollywood.
yeah,
So we can see a Superman Red Sun. We could see the Green Lantern Emerald Knight story. We could see Batman by Gaslight. Like
yeah,
we can take the Elseworld stories that DC has and put it into Black Label and make them just into a little bit darker stories to get that more mature rating and or the idea of what Black Label is to begin with.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. If it were to be that, I'm totally cool with it. But I don't know about Todd Phillips running the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not a big fan of that. But I'm down with the Black Label and an Elseworld series, man. Anything that gets me just the chance to see Thrill Killer as a
Well,
movie.
and you say thrill killer. My big thing with this is I want it to be what Black Label was promised and not what it has turned out to be.
You want all the Batcock.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe Ethan does too.
Yeah,
Um,
just
no,
fucking
but what,
raging hard Batcock.
no, but what I want from it is the darker, grittier stories of the DC universe, and we have seen very much since the debut of Black Label. It has been the dark, gritty stories of the Batman universe,
Yeah.
not DC's universe.
Well, they've even been the dark, gritty, censored versions of the Batman universe
Yes,
because there is, I want to say, half of Batman Damn 2 or Batman Damn 3 that is,
completely changed
yeah,
because of what
yeah,
happened with the first one.
because it was supposed to be essentially Batman and Harley fucking, or Batman being raped by Harley, essentially.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen in the book, obviously. So that's how crazy and dark they were going to get. But again, it's for a mature audience. So it's like, let them do what they wanted to do. I still want to see those pages. And I want to see if Lieber Mayhew just has those in a personal collection or if somebody's been like, I want those. How much? And somebody owns them. Because like those got to be gangster. Or I wonder if he'll release them in like 10 years, like the
Lee, just take a really shaky, blurry photo. I just want to
yeah,
see.
yeah. Like the that artist, I think I forget his name. I think I have his art book. But the guy that was drawing Catwoman for a while, I think he was doing
Oh,
Joker for a while.
March. Uh,
Yes.
I forgot his first name, but March.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he released the photos of Catwoman finding out how like who Batman was, and it was like this strip tease. She just strip teased across the freaking lawn of the Wayne
yeah.
Manor, and he was like, and he came out and said he was like, I could have done something so much better, but these were the original pages, and I had to change them. So I forgot what he ended up doing instead, but I just always remember seeing those pages, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I don't remember that, because it never happened. But it's always interesting to see the things that artists have to change in their books. It's kind of like what happened in the animated series, right? Like they always have ideas that they want to do, and they're like, you can't do that, censorship rules. And they're like, all right, we'll just make it darker than it was, and then
Yeah.
comes out and it's crazy. But for the most part, Black Label, cool. If we get it, but did you see Henry Cavill trending yesterday? Did you
No.
see that? So there's a lot of rumors and hope that with the new change with Zaslav, is that they'll bring him back now because it's new people in charge.
I think that I've seen that sentiment before. I didn't see that he was trending yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably because I have a lot of the Snyder hashtags blocked and
Okay.
muted on
Yeah.
my Twitter. Because I was just like, this is getting way too fucking much.
Yeah.
Um, I I want him back. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows that I've been a big proponent for Henry as Superman. Even with Man of Steel, BVS, everything. Um, I don't know if he'll do it
Yeah.
because I genuinely think that he is having a blast over at Netflix
Mm-hmm.
because he is doing something that he actually enjoys. Like The Witcher is not only a project that he is the head of, but it's a project that he knows all of the lore about because he's a gamer
Yeah.
and like he's actually like somewhat of a consultant
Mm-hmm.
for the makers of that show, which I think is really really cool. And he already has the Sherlock Holmes thing. Enola Holmes, he
Yeah.
is Sherlock in that movie or in that series. He has the sequel coming up, so I think he's finishing that. And I genuinely would not be surprised if he is in the hat for Bond.
It'll be interesting to see if he gets Bond. I don't think he does anything else. But Netflix is going through some drama right now, though, money wise. So
Yeah,
you gotta always know where your next paycheck's coming from when it comes to Hollywood. So if they're like, all right, bro, we're gonna sign you to X amount of films, you're gonna be Superman. This is security. I don't see why he would turn it down. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And especially if they're like, all right, what kind of film do you want to make? Like if he comes in there, he's like, I want to have some say so on what the story is gonna be, and they're just like, all right, fuck it. Well maybe he comes back. I don't give a shit about Superman films. I want to know who Batman's gonna be. That's all I want to know. Because right now I have like a 60-year-old dude that is Batman, and I want to know what the fuck they're gonna do. So, um, you know, we shall see. But those are essentially the two things. Clay mentioned he's like, you could talk about the Gotham Knights trailer. I watched half of that shit. The best thing is I saw somebody on Twitter say this is Riverdale with Batman characters,
That's
which it felt
hilarious.
very much like Riverdale, which was pretty crazy. But I talked about this one moment. Okay, so Bruce Wayne is murdered in this thing, which is blows my mind that Bruce Wayne could be
Well,
murdered.
okay, real quick. So I can't remember who said it,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody in the Discord was like, "Is this fucking true? Did Batman get murdered not even wearing the suit?"
Yeah, and they know he's Batman, which is weird. So he dies as Bruce Wayne, but they know he's Batman. And so they come to the new son is having a house party, and of course there's like a pretty girl getting drunk or whatever. And she's like, "You sure your dad's not gonna be mad?" And he's like, "He won't care." Blah blah blah. And then the Harvey comes to the fucking because I guess Harvey's gonna be the Gordon of this show,
Yeah,
and Harvey's like, "Oh hey, whatever the fuck the kid's name is." He's like, "It's about your dad." And then they tell him that he's died, and then there's a funeral scene and all this shit and all this kind of jazz. And of course, it's so teenage angsty because the three kids that are tied to the death are the other characters. Like the I guess the Red Hood character and the I don't even know who these characters are or who it's gonna be.
Apparently,
Oh,
one of
one's
them is
Joker's
supposed to be,
daughter.
yeah,
Yeah. They're like, is it true that you're the Joker's daughter? And so she's all fucking edgy, edge lord, and like all this stuff. And then they're like transporting them, and then of course the son is a suspect because like, oh, did you want your dad's money? And so there's this one scene where they're in a van, like they're being transported, and the Joker's daughter is like trying to get out of her cuffs. And the security guy's like, "What are you trying to do?" He's like, "I'm trying to get out of these cuffs. It was easier for so and so and so and so." And of course, they beat the shit out of the guards or whatever. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna beat somebody or whatever." They end up getting saved by Carrie Kelly, who is it's the black character because I think that was like the only person of color in this trailer that I saw that I can remember. Carrie Kelly is like saves the whole group in this weird like spy kind of uniform. She doesn't even have a costume. She's just like all stealth mode with gadgets. And um they had this joke that was like, "Oh, you're so and so from trigonometry." Like it's just stupid.
yikes.
And she has this one line that came off so creepy to me because she was like, "Oh, yeah, I knew your dad was Batman. He used to call me his little Robin." And I was just like, like it came off very predatory in my opinion.
That's the Robin from. I mean, that's the Batman from Titans.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it was just very. I stopped watching it after that, and I don't know if it was just because. Yeah, it's just really weird, man. Because everybody's like, "Well, dude, he's always had kids." Like, yes, I understand that he's always has kids as his like sidekicks. I get that, but hearing it being said by this young girl in a sad tone, like she was sad because I think they were talking about his death or whatever, and she was like, "Yeah, he used to call me his little Robin." And I'm just like, oh, like, ugh, I just felt dirty hearing it. And yeah, I was just like, I'm not gonna watch the show. Fuck that. So yeah, that is the Gotham Knights trailer. Very odd, very weird, and yeah, it sucks. I'm not gonna watch that show. It's so
All
odd.
right. Well, let me. I don't know if last time I checked this morning, we did not have any listener questions via YouTube. But let me go
We have a
ahead
couple.
and double check here.
Yeah. We have one from Raphael who
Okay.
says, perhaps it was already answered. What do you like most about the Batman Telltale game? And what did you not like about it?
I know what Juice likes about it.
Oh, yeah, dude. You can go on my YouTube channel right now. By the way, I brought back all of my old videos for people that have been like, where's your old content at? I brought it all back to see because I was doing an experiment to see if like it would help me out in the long run. But I just brought all my old content back. So if you guys want to go see all that old shit, I don't recommend it. But if you want to, you can go check it out. But I do, and I did have this up still, anyways. I had my playthrough of Batman Telltale, and yeah, the moment I get to bang Catwoman in that movie, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, brother. And I was like, it was just fucking stupid. It was fucking hilarious. Definitely my favorite part of the game. But what I didn't like, I don't know. It's obviously different, like an Elseworld type of story. I think we talked about this on the last podcast. When it came to the Arkham games, I hated that Tim and Barbara were dating. That was weird.
Yeah.
But I don't think I liked that. Was it Vicky Vale or who was the character lady? There was like a reporter lady who was the villain. I didn't like that. Like that wasn't the best.
I think it was Vale.
Yeah, whoever the villain was that was a reporter. Yeah, I didn't think she was that great. That was the first telling or one of the first tellings of the Waynes being bad people.
Yep.
So I didn't mind it. It was a different story in a game. But yeah, I just think the weird, it's just like reporter being the bad person was kind of off. Like I think you could have just made a villain.
Yeah.
Also, Harley Quinn being the big bad was kind of weird. Also, I didn't get a
Yes.
banger in that, so it kind of annoyed me. That's a joke.
Um, what I liked, and it's something that I haven't really seen a whole lot of. Um, I know that it's been there a couple times, whether it be in Elseworld stories or in some people's canon, whatever. I liked that Penguin and Bruce because they were coming from money knew each other.
Yeah.
Like they were the rich families of Gotham.
Yeah.
I I do like that just because it makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
You know, it's why I always like when there's a mention of Luther and Bruce having a past because of
Yeah.
their money. It's like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right?
For sure.
So I really like that. Um, as stuff that I didn't like, I feel like, and this is just a pet peeve. There's some things in those games, Telltale overall,
Yeah.
that I feel like the reaction time, but like scenes,
Hmm.
some I just didn't love because it was a moment where I'm like, oh, cool, I can just like sit back and watch this real quick. Nope, okay,
Yeah.
like like I get all relaxed. I'm like, no, because I know you did you accidentally go after Two Face and accidentally like kill Selena at one point? I can't remember, or was that on a second playthrough?
Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, because when I make up bad decisions, I always make up an excuse and be like, "Oh, the Dragon Balls! We got the Dragon Balls, guys! Like, we gotta do something different."
Rewind.
Yeah, I've definitely, I don't know. I've definitely made bad decisions because of reaction times. I just don't remember if that happened on Telltale. I'm sure
See, and
somebody that's watched my content will remember.
something that is good and bad, is the ending of Telltales. They're always like, "Oh, here are the choices that everybody else made."
I don't think I
And
got Selena killed. I did make it to where she left me though.
okay, okay, okay.
So yeah. Now thinking back on it.
The moments at the end where they're like, "Oh, this is what everybody else chose."
Hmm.
I really wish that like as a giant community as Telltale was, and I know that they've recently come back or whatever. Um, I wish there was something more to those. Like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe there could be a giant community day where like everybody is either watching a stream or something else. And I know they do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't think Juice would ever trust anybody in his stream to make those choices for him.
Fuck no. Fuck no. Although you could do polls, but the thing is I don't think you can like freeze frame on some of those decisions because there's reaction time, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, they should have an option to like they should have a stream option to where it freezes those decisions to where you can allow people to pick. Because that would be cool. I
yeah.
think that would be a really fun idea. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could do that if I after a second playthrough is what I would do that on. I'm like, all right, you guys can pick the choices. Like, we'll go through it. Because yeah, I definitely a first playthrough I would not want to let people do it. You know what I'm seeing a lot of people replay right now? Detroit Become Human.
I have seen a lot of people play that as well.
Yeah, I was watching Saikuno play it, and he totally went very different than I did, and he ended because I got like I always manage to get the like best good ending, and maybe that's because I'm just trying to be a goody two shoes when I play these games. Um, and I always get like the superhero ending or whatever. So I got like the ending where the androids all got their rights and all that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
So like that's what I got. Although I think I did get somebody killed that I was like,
There's
no.
there's an there's somewhat of an I think an alternate ending to that.
Hmm.
Because I got that, but then something else happened at the very end.
Hmm.
Um
The
I
one he got was the dude got set on fire and then they fucking murdered all the androids.
oh shit.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit. It was gangster. And he was like, guys, I think we're gonna need to play it again. Like it was fucking funny. I was like, damn.
I recently played that game.
Yeah.
I think it was around the time that we were working together.
Hmm.
And the thing with me was
I want to play it
I
on stream again.
I when I think I accidentally no, it was the very first mission. When
Hmm.
you finish the very first mission, it shows you the like spider web of
Yeah,
decisions you
it's
made, and then
insane.
it zooms out and my eye,
Yeah.
like I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So because of that detail alone, I want to play it again.
Yeah.
And
There's so many
hopefully
endings.
I hopefully want to make completely different choices.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing when you play those games. Uh, so like with essentially a lot of those games I play now, like the adult games are just all choice based stuff.
Yeah.
And like it's like, all right, if you make this decision, it affects you not being able to talk to this girl or be able to go down this path or whatever. And I've played some that are very intricate, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I played this one game, and I've told it to a few people. I'm gonna make a video on it in the future because there is a I can't say that word.
Yeah.
Hallucination
Yeah.
scene in this game that a lot of copyrighted characters show up, and I was just like, what? And I don't know how they fucking swung that, or if they just made the game and didn't give a fuck. But I
Nice.
want to make a video because of that particular part. But the first time I played through this game, I was like, where's the action at? I'm not getting anything spicy. And I ended up getting like the super secret ending where you get no action and you die. And I was just like, what? And so I had to play through it again. So like some people actually go balls to the wall with these kind of games. But I would love a Telltale version of that. Like how in depth Detroit Become Human was,
Yeah.
but for a Batman game, that would be pretty nuts. Now I kind of want to play Detroit Become Human again because that game was pretty crazy. I don't know how many streams it took me to finish that game, but it was awesome. But that was back when I could stream for like 8 hours, no problem. So like those days feel like they're gone. But yeah, I think that's enough for that question. What else we got? I think I turned off my YouTube.
YouTube, we have a question from the Ponderer.
Oh, dun dun dun. Who's been gone from the Discord for a bit?
Yes.
Good vacation.
Which genre of films do you think would work in a Batman film? He goes on to an example that kind of is, I think, a little silly considering we completely solved the detective story
Yeah.
in the Batman. But I'm going to warp it a little bit, and
Okay.
I'm just going to keep the first half.
Mm-hmm.
As a Batman movie, what other genre is not so wacky where it's like this is stupid, but can be something that's worth watching?
Horror.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like a horror, like, and people said, "Oh, you know, you got bits and pieces of horror in this film with the Batman."
Fuck out of here. For
No,
anybody that says that.
and
What was scary about that?
I
What was
think
scary about the
I
Batman?
think the points that they were talking about is the moment where you see the Riddler pop out of nowhere in the very beginning of the movie, where he's just
That
in the
wasn't
room,
scary.
and then
That was kind of
uh,
annoying because he's
the
like,
commissioner getting eaten by rats.
yeah, that wasn't scary. I rolled my eyes at the start of that when Riddler runs out and knocks that guy.
Yeah,
Because like he's hiding, right? Like, this idea that he's hiding there, and then he attacks the guy. He's like, like he like fucking makes noise or whatever and attacks him. I'm like, you've been there quiet for how long, and then you fucking do this weird walrus cry and knock this guy out. If I'm not mistaken, that happens, right?
yeah.
Like he makes this stupid noise while he's killing. I'm just like, oh my god. And then I mean, I should have known because after that he goes on social media. He's like, hey guys, thanks for being my followers. Subscribe with Twitch Prime.
Uh, I
Um,
would say if you were to make I think we've pitched this, and I know that because we've pitched this, it's not going to happen.
mm,
Um, but if you were to make a Friday the 13th or Texas Chainsaw Massacre type movie
yeah,
with Batman characters,
yeah,
and then have Batman fucking save the day at the end,
yeah.
that would be fucking insane. Like, so did you ever see the movie Split?
Split the Shyamalan.
Yes.
I've seen bits and pieces. I haven't seen it one full playthrough. But yeah,
Okay. Is it okay to spoil it?
yeah, go for it.
Okay. So Anya Taylor-Joy is
Mhm.
the woman that is captured, and then of course, what's his name? Freaking Professor X
Yeah,
plays the person with split personalities. And at the very end, you see somebody at a cafe talking about like, oh, this was kind of like that time several years ago when they arrested that one dude. What was his name? And then you see fucking Bruce Willis
yeah,
say, oh, his name was Mr. Glass, and then it fucking ends.
Yeah.
Like, I saw that in theaters and I was like, holy shit, my brain fucking exploded.
Yeah.
So if you give me a movie with Professor Pig,
Mhm.
but don't make it 100% obvious that it's Professor Pig, like
Yeah.
legit, this whole thing that they're doing with Winnie the Pooh right now, and like
Yeah.
making it a fucking like psychotic
Horror?
horror movie,
Yeah.
you make a movie like that with somebody with a pig face, and
Mhm.
then out of fucking nowhere, in the last 15 minutes, Batman saves the fucking day.
Yeah.
You know how fucking wild that would be?
That would be nuts. Um, yeah, but will DC ever allow it? You know, that's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there hasn't been short films like that. You know?
That would be I would love a movie. Like, I am not a horror guy
Yeah.
whatsoever. Juice has witnessed this. But
Yeah,
like
that's funny.
but if you were to do that, I think that would be really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they don't do fucked up shit like that. I mean, if you were going to try to do an like, they just need to come out with the Elseworld or Black Label brand. They were like, this is where we're going to allow everything,
Yeah.
and this Matt Reeves belongs in Black Label. I would say, like we're gonna have this is where we can do our creative shit, and there's no ties to anything, and this is going to be our universe. You know what I mean? And I think you should do shit like that, and you should allow a $35 million budget for a HBO Max movie that deals with like some kind of different, character. Like you could do Dollface, which would be great. See, Professor Pig, I think, is a harder swing. But if you were to do Dollface, because nobody really knows Dollface or Dollmaker,
Yeah.
um, that would be a better story, in my opinion. Because that just
Because
comes off as a hardcore horror film.
so right now, and I'll allow it. Right now, the number one ranking horror genre film
Mm-hmm.
is Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness with
Okay.
$880 million.
Yeah.
I'll allow it because there is some stuff there that was like genuinely like this is kind of crazy that it's getting put into an MCU movie.
Yeah.
But second to that is It Chapter 1 with $700 million.
Yeah.
If you were
So that's number
to
one, is how I would say.
if you were to make that Batman movie
Mm-hmm.
and then word got out, hey, this is a Batman movie but
Yeah.
disguised as a horror film, I think it clears 700 easy,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
even
I think
with
that'd be
it
fucking
being
great.
a horror movie.
Yeah. The thing is I just don't know. I mean, if you do it as Black Label, it'd be great. You know what would be amazing though is you do that film like the way how you just make it a straight horror with this doll face kind of character, doll maker, and Pattinson shows up at the end, and it's just part of
Yeah.
his universe. You'd be like, oh fuck. But yeah, we made the idea here first, so we're gonna sue you if anybody steals our ideas out here. Okay, we said it first. Just saying.
But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be really, really cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fire. Yeah, I think horror is the best place to go. Anything else is just campy, you know.
Yeah.
So, all right,
That's it for YouTube.
all right. Let's see.
I asked the question over at Discord. The very first question is Bats. I did go ahead and tell you we did talk about Blue Beetle last episode. So if you guys want to check that out, all of our thoughts on the suit, where the movie's going to go, and everything else is there in episode 141. The next question is from Charlie. Man, I tried to keep it Batman, but I'm hungry. He says, best burger in Texas.
That's kind of tough, man. Because are we talking fast food burger? Are we talking about like gourmet burger? Like
Yeah.
like that's big. Like okay, fast food burger. Let's start there. Where are you going?
Fast food burger. I
And
think.
it has to have a drive-through. If it doesn't have a drive-through, it's not a fast food burger.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
criteria.
I think my number one place to go is always Whataburger.
Yeah, better than In-N-Out. 100%. Although, just because I know people at In-N-Out won't criticize their brand, I have had a Whataburger open near my place recently. It's not the best. Not the best. I don't
Oh,
know.
there is one over there now.
I do
Yeah.
not know what happened. My sister-in-law, she was like, I feel like the bread tastes different now. And I'm like, That would make a huge difference because I don't know if they're changing something in the process. Because didn't they used to like toast the buns?
Yeah.
I don't know if they do that anymore or what the difference is. There's something slightly different because it just doesn't taste the same to me. And this is what happens when some asshole from Chicago comes and buys our fucking brand and they're no longer a part of Texas. Fucking Chicago people over here thinking they know what Texas does. They don't. God.
Oh,
Fucking ruining Whataburger.
oh shit.
But yeah, I'd go Whataburger for fast food. I have been eating, unfortunately, McDonald's a lot lately because they opened one near me, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I just don't want to drive anywhere else. I've been eating quarter pounders, which I haven't had those in a really long time, but I'm like, it's not too bad.
I had one
Um,
recently. It was
yeah,
all
they're
right.
not my favorite. I
Yeah.
would go Whataburger over. Like, if excluding the one I've been going to that sucked recently, if it's always that perfect Whataburger, Whataburger every single time for a fast food burger.
It
So
it it was so convenient that there was a Whataburger close to our job.
yeah,
That is
two of
just
them actually.
yeah.
So yeah, super convenient. Yeah, I had it so much. I have not had it nearly as much since I quit that job. So um, because there was none near me.
Yeah.
But I also tried to lay off fast food for a while, but that failed. Anyways,
Next
so
question would be from no original name. And legit, this is the last question, which means we are basically at the end of the podcast. Because there's no freaking comics that we were interested in reading.
yeah,
Uh, I will say I'm interested in reading Road to Dark Crisis. But Batman showed up in one panel
yeah,
for the entire book. So I
that
was like,
sucks.
let's leave it off of this podcast for this week. And then, excuse me, and then once Dark Crisis actually starts, that's when we'll start covering stuff. So no original name on Discord said if you could pick a writer to write Batman long term, 50 plus issues, who would it be? Just I'm gonna make something add on to this. You can't
Hmm.
choose Tom King.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay.
Um, right now, Ed Brubaker.
I'm gonna go with our choice back in 2020,
Oh, okay.
Cami Garcia.
Yeah, that's a good shout. That's a good shout. She
I
does the creepy really well.
She does the creepy really well. I think
Doesn't
that
stick the landing though.
true,
Yeah,
but who's to say the editors are not at fault for that? You know.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but I would want to see because honestly, with that story, it was very centered on Harley. There was
yeah,
not a whole lot of like side characters.
yeah,
I'd be really interested to see what Cammy can do with a cast of characters
yeah, for sure.
in the
Has she
Batman
done
title.
anything recently?
Um she is very big into the like
She's still writing the
the
little kids
the
books.
the
Yeah,
young adult novels which
gotcha.
are like partially they are comic books
Yeah,
but they're a little bit more of a lighter tone and everything else, so she does have range, which is really nice.
yeah,
So when you have those moments of having a Robin in there or saving civilians, she can do it correctly.
hmm,
But then she can go really hella dark if she needs to.
yeah,
So I would choose Cami Garcia.
yeah. That would be yeah, definitely a good shout. I go Brubaker because Brubaker already knows how to write Catwoman. He wasn't, although it was a continuation of his run, he wasn't the one that gave Catwoman a baby that wasn't from Bruce. That was Pfeiffer. But Brubaker, just like, dude, that Brubaker Catwoman run is insanely good. And I'm glad that Ram V was like, yeah, I'm gonna follow in the footsteps of Brubaker and Pfeiffer for my run, and it felt kind of that same vibe. So I would go Brubaker. If I had to choose a second person, who would I want to see? To be honest, I don't know if I even have a second choice after Brubaker. To be honest, like Yeah, I don't
I,
know because
I
Ram V's already gonna do detective, so
yeah.
I'm gonna kind of see him on a Batman.
And I know a lot of people are nervous about that because of the conversations that we had earlier this week that they're showing a lot of Talia in his
Yeah, yeah.
concept art for his run. Um I trying to think here. Uh
I mean, we're gonna get to see Brubaker in the animated series,
yes.
so that'll be interesting.
Oh, you know what? Just because I would like to see him on mainstream main title Batman.
Mhm.
If he would agree to it, Paul Dini.
Oh yeah, that would be pretty interesting. Um, but does Paul Dini shine because of the art that follows him? You know,
Ooh, that's a good question. Like
you
like
know,
could Paul Dini, the voice of Batman and the voice of the cast of characters,
yeah,
fit with a David Finch
yeah,
or an Ivan Reyes? Or
yeah.
like that's interesting. I never really thought about that.
Because Paul Dini usually has more light-hearted drawings that accompany his work, and it fits
Yeah.
really well. Now, granted, he did do the Arkham stories, and those games were good.
Yes.
So, also, if I'm not mistaken, on YouTube, uh, Ethan, the Ponderer, says that he doesn't think Dini did part three, and I'm pretty sure he did.
Let
Pretty
me
sure he wrote
actually
that final story, unless I'm wrong. But
let's see here.
I want to say Dini at least wrote the last two, but he probably wrote all of them. Because if not, he was an executive producer for sure. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he had main writer credit.
Wow, I don't think I am seeing his name.
Really? The Ponderer gets something right? Oh my god.
Let me see here.
Let's see. Who?
Ah, look at this.
Huh.
So, development on Arkham Knight began in 2011 after completion of Arkham City and took place over 4 years. Rocksteady opted to use its own writers for the main story, with collaboration by comic book writer Jeff Johns, choosing to replace Paul Dini, who had
Oh.
worked on Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. The introduction of the Batmobile requires a change in the team's design methodology, as the previous game's city designs were too narrow and confined to allow smooth travel for the vehicle. So yeah, Ponderer,
Ah.
you are correct. Bravo to you, slow clap.
Hey, everybody gets one. So good on you, my guy. Good on you. See, that's what we need more of the Ponderer and less of the
Yes,
other stuff.
yes, yes.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the podcast for this week. We have no reviews, and there's nothing else I don't see online that's popping out that's
Let's
interesting.
see what
So
we have for next week, though, as far as comics, because I believe, we almost have like all of next month's comics already available to us. I want to
yeah.
give a shout out to our connection over there at DC. So it looks like Batman 124, the last issue for Williamson, is
Oh,
going to be next week. We have Batman Beyond Neo Year, number 3. Killing Time number 4, Dark Crisis number 1, Dark Knights of Steel number 7, Flashpoint Beyond number 2,
Jesus.
uh, and Poison Ivy number 1.
Who's writing that?
Poison Ivy number 1 is going to be a Dan Mora art book, but let me see
Oh,
who the writer is on this one. If it will
interesting.
load for me.
That is a lot of books next week, so probably
Yes.
making up for this week for sure. We get Batcat. Have we got Batcat 12 yet?
No. So actually, I saw an update from Tom King. He was doing some minor edits to that story like just
Ooh,
yesterday. Um,
interesting.
so that's probably going to be either the very end of
Hmm.
June or the very beginning of July.
Interesting.
So this is being written by who is Wilson? Who is
Why do
Wilson?
I
This
have so many
is
things I do this? Oh.
where's the credit page on this? Okay, so G Willow Wilson. Oh no.
Oh. Why is she getting so many female led books recently? Isn't she doing Catwoman?
She's going to be doing Catwoman, yeah. Um I I don't know. Like I think honestly, I think DC burned some bridges with
Mm-hmm.
the way they handled Rebirth
Yeah.
because a lot of the classic writers for DC are nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
Absolutely nowhere. And they, granted, we did ask for more writers to
Yeah.
see new meat. Um, but some of these people are not cutting it, you know?
Yeah. That's what happens when you do the you're not guaranteed to get good stuff when you try new things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of sucks. But yeah, all right. Looks like we'll have a bunch of comics next week to make up for what you guys didn't get this week. But Clay, what do you got going on, man?
So, if you guys haven't seen the third episode of Kenobi, go watch that and then go check out our review from Star Wars Alliance. Really, really fun. A lot of speculation of how the series is going to turn out. We did go over some of the Star Wars Celebration stuff as well. A lot of news on books, comics, and whatnot. Some new animated shows coming from Star Wars as well. Go check it out. Um, I believe in the next week, I'm going to have a Ranger Alliance episode with a lot of Power Ranger news. Um, Recently, one of the original Power Rangers got raided by the FBI. Um,
Yeah, I saw
so we're
that.
going to be talking about that. It's just really fun. So for all of that, go ahead and follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network over on Twitter. That's where you're going to get a lot of my updates for the shows and everything else. So go check that out.
Noise, noise. Just follow me on my YouTubes. I don't know if I'm streaming this week again because I'll be in the I might stream Friday. Might be streaming Friday. Barring, I don't know. I've been trying to catch up on a bunch of work since I essentially did not have access to my PC for a whole week, and I'm very behind on a lot of things. So I'm doing a lot of catch up at the moment. So there's hopefully a stream this week. Just go subscribe to my YouTube channels. But that is going to be it for this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. A short one compared to normal, but it is what it is. We still keeping it weekly. But as always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne, and remember, Batman is awesome.
News Weekly.